Okay. I, we are on the line that begins with the word tzimtzum on page Mem Aleph, line number 6. Maybe we went to the next line a little bit. This is where we're going to start from. So what we have come up with at this point is that the hashpah of the oyer is always behagbola. However, the hagbola is not in the essence of the oyer itself, because the oyer, as it is representative of the etzim, is like the etzim, as we discussed yesterday. It does not inherently have a gvul. The etzim is bli gvul and the oyer is bli gvul, as we demonstrate from various mesholim. But the hashpah oyer has to be betzimtzum, has to be mugbal. The ha'ora that is not representative of the etzim, as it is unto itself, but as it is coming forth to influence and to produce, to bestow it elsewhere, that is mugbal. And this hagbala is actually, as we said, it's not from the ha'ora itself. It is due to the tzimtzum through which the ha'ora flows. What is where is this tzimtzum coming from? This tzimtzum is essentially the principle that he wants to be mashpia. And in order to be mashpia is to be mashpia in a manner that will be acceptable to the mushpa. Thus, the rotzoin is the cause, is that which brings the ha'ora in a tzimtzum. Because the rotzoin, this becomes the funnel through which the oil hanefesh is put through in order to be mashpia.
What's the implication of what you said that the ha'ara, the hagbal of the ha'ara doesn't come from itself?
That the ha'ara itself, as it is, ha'ara is the ha'ara of the etzim. Ha'ara of the etzim doesn't have a hagbal, just like the etzim is not movable. We discussed it yesterday. In other words, the ha'ora, in the sense that the ha'ora is representative of the etzim, although it's only ha'ora, but it represents the etzim, it is not movable. Just like the etzim is not movable. Do we know what I'm referring to? Or we gave the illustration, a very simple illustration, that the human being, his presence in the world is an atzmi presence. He is in the world not as a uninvited guest. He just has to make room for himself, like the idiots view it. He is a creation meant to run and own the world, just like a prince in the king's palace. That's a human being. And because of this atzmius, of this reality of the human presence in the world, as small as he is, he has the whole world. As we mentioned many times, that the world, as varied as it developed as it is, without a human being has absolutely no significance. One human being in the big world gives the whole world a significance. Now this human being does not, even though the whole world is his platform, but he does not actually occupy and live in the whole world in practice. He's aware of it, but he chooses to demarcate a certain area and calls this is his home. And in this home he feels comfortable, and in this home is oversized. He feels uncomfortable because of the limits of his intellect, the limits of his rots. But if the home really accommodates him, like we said all the time, it's not the Empire State Building. It's a home that represents a human dwelling. Then he feels comfortable in it. Where is he present? How does he become present in this home? He becomes present in this home automatically. When he moves into this home, he doesn't have to go and visit every room and every crack and crevice in order to make his presence present. This is because he's an atzmi. He belongs in this home. And then automatically this oir, this Ayin, that he is everywhere, this is the oir of this human being. But this is the oir, not oir lahashpia. This is the oir of the etzem. Whose home is this? It's my home. That's what this oir is.
Yeah, Shlomo. Yeah, I'm going to join you here. I'm joining you into this. You can stay on this line. There you are.
This is what's called oir, that the ha'ora of the etzem itself, representing the etzem. That has no bounds. Wherever the person is, that's where the Ayin is. Like we demonstrated many times. If a person has a dwelling and then he expands it, he doesn't have to expand himself to be in that area. He is there automatically. He is there. And as we also explain all the time, that if someone wants to move into your home, he wants to move into a little corner that does not disturb you whatsoever. Chances are you've never visited that corner. It's in some hidden place of the attic. And he says, I'm going to be here. I'm not disturbing you. And we say, there's absolutely no chance I'm going to let you do that. No way. And if you insist on it, I'm going to call 911. You can't be here. Why not? How am I disturbing you? You're not disturbing. You're stepping on my toes. You're stepping on my head. I am all over here. It's not my function that you are disturbing. That's meant oir atzmi. That oir atzmi has no limits. Wherever the person wants to be, that's where he is. Reminding us of the saying in the Baal Shem Tov, Mokim she'etzein shalom shomhu. A person is where he wants to be. It may be thousands of miles away. As we said before, one human being in the whole world changes the whole world. Because our aura of the etzem is like the etzem. This thing that we say that the ha'ora has a limit, is megvul, that is a ha'ora that comes through rotzen lahashpia. there, pardon me, the inyan of the ha'ara is not to represent the etzem, it is to represent the functional element of the etzem. We discussed this also yesterday and the day before. The functional element of the etzem. Like in the case of the sun, the functioning element of the sun is light. The sun itself is not light. Illumination. The ha'ara represents the functioning element of the sun, that it illuminates a dark place. That has a Hagbola. And we explained yesterday, this Hagbola is necessary so that it would be a functioning element instead of a transformation element. In other words, the light illuminates the darkness, and the darkness remains darkness, essentially, but it illuminates it. It does not transform it into light. And the same thing is in the Nefesh Odom, where it is the koiches, the gili of the koiches, comes through this tzimtzum, where the Nefesh wants to be mashpia the koiches. The rotzoin, this is the tzimtzum. As it says, rotzoin is tziner. This rotzoin represents not the actual presence and life of the nefesh itself. It represents the will of the nefesh to be effective, and to give life to the goof, to function in the goof. If the nefesh were to come into the goof just to be a presence, then the goof would be totally eliminated from presence. It would be a useless thing. The islapios of the nefesh in the goof is for the purpose that, for example, the seichel of the nefesh should be formulated in a manner that it would be, that it can relate to the fact that there is a goof. Let's take something to illustrate the concept, something to relate to the how there is a goof. We've spoken about this many times, but to demonstrate this inyan as it pertains to this, to the discussion here now. There is light and darkness. The world is dark. This is the nature of the world. This is what the world is in essence. Light is something which is an add-on to the world. Light actually is a contradiction, is a transformation of the world. And this is why the Rebbe limited the light and so forth, and he separated day and night, because light eliminates worldliness. Let's understand how the world functions in the dark and the world functions in the light. In the light, you have a table, and you want to bring in another table. Are you going to first hit the other table against this table and then say, oh, it doesn't fit, let's move it over here? You will put it wherever there's room provided for the other table. Each thing has its initial reality. You have another table, it has its own place. In the dark, this is where it's established in the world. You bring in the table, and you carry it as far as you can, and then you hit the other table and say, oh, no, we can't go that far. Let's move over here. It's the same seichel. that two tables cannot be in the same place, but works totally differently. It's mislabish in the darkness of the world, and then it figures out how to do it. Whereas when it is in light, it's not mislabish. This, you see the reality. It's of the world. The Rebbe has provided in the world room for two tables, and you see the place with the other table right away.
That's Gan Eden.
You see it right away. It's not reactive. It's not two tables in conflict with each other. The slapshot of the nefesh in the guf, and the seichel ha'odom. The seichel is, all seichel is a nefesh element. But how does it function within the guf? We have to figure out where is the seichel, what is the right thing. How? By saying, it cannot be this way, it has to be this way. You don't see it right away. You're not in perfect brightness. Perhaps after you figure out the right way, you could have an overview and say, this is really the right way. Because really, it all comes from the reality of the nefesh. Like we explained the other day, I don't want to repeat this, that logic itself is a nefesh element. Obviously, it's not an inadvertent result of the conflict between two objects. This is pshat hislapshus. And the what facilitates this is slapshus. Nefesh itself is totally unlimited. What facilitates this is slapshus, that it actually can relate to the limits of the world, or the limits of the guf, is rotzing.
Say that again, please.
What facilitates this hislapshus, that the nefesh should be mislabish in the guf and relate to the guf, it is the rotzein hanefesh, the will. Because the nefesh relates to the guf through the faculty of rotzein, we call it faculty. It is not the etzem hanefesh. If it were the etzem hanefesh, then the guf would be discounted completely. It would be nefesh. Because it comes to the rotzein. Rotzein, as we discussed it, is and that provides for the bringing the koiches hanefesh in a manner that the koiches actually are mislabish and function within the guf. And it's mislabish to the extent that it may appear that it's actually a reaction to the guf. It's like in the dark. But it's not in the dark. It's light. But it's light that has a purpose. It wants that it should be understood in the guf with guf parameters.
It wants to be.
Right. It wants to effectuate that seichel. And this is the tzimtzum that is effective on the ha'oras hanefesh. Yeah.
When you explained the ha'ara that was believable, you explained it also in terms of that it had to be, in accordance with the ratzon. In other words, if the person lived in the Empire State Building, then that ha'ara would not come in. Only when the dwelling is in accordance with the ratzon, then the person himself is present there. It has to be like a makam roy. But
I got you.
What I'm asking is...
No, I understand what you're asking.
Okay.
I don't.
He's asking I'm cutting you off because I want to be the time is up.
Yeah.
He's asking that if we say that it comes to rotzen, and rotzen effectuated tzimtzum, but we said that this rotzen is effective even when it is a gilui ho'etzem. Like in a home, a person is in a tzumtzum is a limited home because that's how where he can fit. That's where his rotzen fits. So it's also mugbal. How come we say that's not mugbal? Okay. The explanation isn't necessary that we understand this explanation. Indeed, it is mugbal. Except the difference is that this Hagbola has as its aim to accommodate the nefesh, the person. The Hagbola that we're talking about has its aim to accommodate the guf, the recipient. As long as it's accommodating the etzem, it has the power of the etzem, no matter how big or small it is. This is what we said, we learned way before a whole minor, from Hagbola Atzmis, which is not Hagbola at all. But Tzelem, Hagbola Atzmis. That which defines me is not Hagbola.
So there's must be Pnimis Ratzon and Chitzonius Ratzon. Pnimis Ratzon is the one that's focused on the Etzem, and Chitzonius is focused on the Kaaba.
Well,
Or, I mean,
to identify it further down in Pnimis and Chitzonius, again we have to qualify everything. But this gives you an understanding that in the other Ratzon, this is still representing the etzem. Whereas here it is representing the ha'ora. What is my point? What is my message? Not what am I? Where am I? And that is mugba.
two different rotzons or the same rotzon? I mean, in other words,
you could say that this is Pnimis Rotzen, this is Chitzonius Rotzen. And the other one, the Rotzen that represents the Etzem is beyond Pnimis Rotzen, it's Rotzen Atzmi. Pnimis Rotzen is still a Rotzen for function. This is a Rotzen Atzmi. To bring that into focus, Rotzen Atzmi, is what we mentioned all the time, that Kol Dover Reitze B'Kiyumoy. We discussed it even yesterday. Reitze B'Kiyumoy, that's talking about its own presence, its own existence. But this is not a Rotzen because he wants to affect anything. This identifies the reality of his presence, and it's called Rotzen. This Rotzen is not a will to accomplish anything. This Rotzen is a direct reflection of the Etzem. Why does he want it? Because that's the truth. Because that's his truth. Since we have a very limited time, I want to put in another point here, having mentioned this, which will bring another clarity to a principle. This is what many of us who come from the secular background have a problem with. If you say the seichel is based on rotzin, so then that's not pure seichel. It's seichel according to the way you want it. And no matter how pure and true it is, it's still not seichel per se, the truth of seichel. So I want to try and explain the principle behind this, and we'll see there's absolute truth in it. This Inyan, we explained, that the initial rotzen is Roitze B'Kiyumai. And we explained what's behind this Roitze B'Kiyumai. Roitze B'Kiyumai because in this rotzen B'Kiyumai, this is where it senses the elokus that has bestowed upon him. This is the means by which he relates to the godly will, to the godly mission that brought him into existence. Therefore, well, step back before we go to the therefore. Where does he have this inyan that he wants to relate to the godly mission? Is this some kind of a logical decision? This is what's called, this is the etzem hanefesh. This is the atzmius truth of the nefesh. And this etzem truth of the nefesh is translated in the rotzen Roitze B'Kiyumai. That's what Roitze B'Kiyumai. But it is a rotzen. It is a rotzen that does not come to be on the practical level. It is a rotzen which is reflective of the etzem itself. This is what he is. Why does he want godliness? Because he is godliness. He has the godly truth. And therefore, everything that emanates through this rotzen is bringing out the godly truth. There cannot be a greater objective to truth than the godly truth. Ultimately, coming back to where we are, the mission that Hashem had given the nefesh is that the nefesh should be mislabish in the guf. And mislabish in the guf means that it should reveal in the guf the inyan of the nefesh. And this is where rotzen comes into focus. In a word, and then I'll let you go. Think about this. The reality that the nefesh bestows upon the guf is that he wants to be. Why does he want to be? Because there's a godly reality in being. In being. This is the rotz. In other words, the nefesh tells the guf there is an absolute reality. Everything comes from Motzerish. What do I know about Motzerish? It's reflected in this rotz. This rotzen provides the sense of reality as it is known in the guf. Whoever is here with me, find what?
Can we have this in the Bratz B'Kiyumai? Can we have it like at the beginning of the shiur? It's like I hope that we hang out with this a little while. We don't run away. Right here.
Make this the beginning of the shiur?
Yeah. Oh,
this guy complains. This guy doesn't agree.
No, I don't mean now beginning of the shiur, but this in the Bratz B'Kiyumai and its relation to Seichel and what it brings to the body. I hope that we don't run away from it. We stay with more elaboration.
Shlomi Yinison guarantees that.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen. Have a good day. By the way, I had Yosset yesterday, and somehow I did not bring the tikkun, so today I have tikkun. I hope Mitchell will say l'chaim.